Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati Style is brought to you by Minuteman Tickets. Football's back, everybody, and there's only one spot you should be heading to get your college football or NFL tickets, and that's Minuteman Tickets. We love Minuteman. They're Ohio guys, and they're sports fans just like all of us, and they're not going to screw you over like other ticketing places. It's not just football either. They got it all. Baseball, hockey, theater, rib cook-offs. It doesn't matter. They've got everything. Hit them up, MinutemanTickets.com, or give them a call, 614-943-3000, and avoid all of the fees. That's 614-943-3000. Tell them you heard about them right here on Craft Brewed Sports, Cincinnati Style.
Cincinnati Style is also brought to you by More Labs. Drink one bottle of morning recovery while you're partying and bounce back quickly the next morning. Guaranteed. Go to morelabs.com and use the code SPORTS at checkout for 20% off your non-subscription purchase.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Craft Brewed Sports, Cincinnati Style. I am Mike. With me, as always, is Scott. Joe hanging out behind the computers. Scott, how you feeling today, man?
Whew, another rough week in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was brutal. I was there, man. It was the saddest thing I'd ever experienced.
Another one of the winnable games that never actually felt winnable once the game
We
kicked
gotta
off.
stop saying a game is winnable. Like, it's over. We're not gonna say that the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Joe, how you feeling tonight, bud?
What it do, baby?
Love it every time. We got an awesome show for you guys tonight. This is Craft Brewed Sports Cincinnati Style, where we talk all things Cincinnati. I'm done defending Andy Dalton. We're going to talk about that tonight. I tried to defend my redheaded brethren, and it's done. I'm over it.
The college try is over.
I want to recap. I saw the game with my pops, and I want to talk about that.
Papa B.
The experience at Paul Brown Stadium. Also, Shannon Sharpe saying some crazy stuff on Twitter, and Stephen A. Smith.
Was it crazy?
Yes, it was crazy. You don't. Oh, okay. Reel it in, Mike, because we're gonna get to that. Also, I have a dream scenario for UC football.
Say what?
Dream scenario that I'm so excited for it, and if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna be so mad. But I really feel like it could happen, and it's gonna be the best thing in the world in this city. We'll also talk Xavier's preseason ranking.
Yeah, baby.
XU.
Flip the script. It's 2019 and the new year.
It is a new year. You are right about that. Fantastic show. So let's get right into this Bengals talk, because there's a lot to get to from this week. Fart noises, right? Everybody's going to beat them. They are going to go 0-16. It is so disappointing, man.
Except for the Dolphins.
No, they're going to lose to the Dolphins.
I still maintain that.
You know what's going to happen? You know what they're going to do? They're going to screw up, and they're going to lose, or they're going to win a different game, and then they're going to end up beating the Dolphins. They're going to win 2 games. They're going to get like the 4th pick in the draft. And it's going to be even worse. Like, at this point, who can lose them all? I would rather you lose them all. Maybe get the 2nd pick. Let the Dolphins ruin that 1st pick on Tua, and you take Joe Burrow, and it's great. Fine, I'm happy with that. But they're going to screw up and win another game that they're not supposed to, and they're going to end up with 2 wins, and then they're going to whatever. Anyways, another rough week for the Bengals. The game against the Jaguars, I was there with my pops. End of the 1st quarter, nothing. I had everybody in the section laughing when I was like, we aren't losing, everybody. And then we had the lead at halftime. And then we had the lead at the end of the 3rd quarter. And then Andy Dalton went Andy Dalton.
And this is the weirdest part, because we've said it. Like, why does it take them until the 4th quarter to finally pick things up and go on? This time, they got to the 4th quarter, and all of a sudden, the time when they pick things up and could have closed this out, they went MIA.
Dude, they didn't just go MIA. So the whole game, there was a loudmouth in our section that was yelling from the coin toss to put in Finley. That he was like, Dalton's garbage, put in. I'm like, shut up, man. Like, and then we even were cracking up with, like, Andy threw the touchdown pass that gave him the 7-3 lead. And it's like, all right, see, yeah, good thing they didn't put in Finley. And Dalton was looking decent until the very end of the fourth quarter when he throws 3 picks in 5 plays.
Oh.
And, like, throughout the whole game, you can rationalize it and be like, that wasn't Andy's fault. That's because the line is garbage and Andy's running for life. That wasn't Andy's fault. That's because the receiver broke off on his route midway through. That wasn't Andy's fault. That's because it was tipped up. And then that happens. It's like, yeah, that was Andy's fault. Oh, that one was Andy's fault too. Oh, that one was also Andy's fault. Good Lord, what is happening to this team? I was almost in tears.
But he was the leading rusher with 33 yards and a touchdown. He was the leading rusher, though.
I'm pretty sure we had negative rushing yards at half. I'm pretty sure there was negative rushing yards at half. It was such an awful performance.
Remember when I on Craft Root Sports when I drafted my team during the show?
Yeah.
With Matt Barr from Fourth and Gold podcast, the 49ers podcast that, shout out to. I have Joe Mixon in that league, and he is killing.
Yeah, you should probably just go ahead and drop him. Like
killing.
That's a horrible pick.
me.
I'd drop him. Why wouldn't you? Oh, I mean,
he was my 3rd round pick. Like, and I thought I remember when I got him, I was like, I'm getting a steal. Like, this is pretty solid. Like third round, he fell to me. I was pumped. He has been worse than anybody that you can find on the scrap heap.
Dude.
And I'm like, you say you're done making excuses for Andy Dalton. I feel like I've been making excuses for Mixon this entire season. And granted, the offensive line we know is trash, but at some point, even still, if you're a good running back, like, you find something. And he's just been
10 carries against the Jags.
Oh,
2 yards.
like, I don't care how bad your offense.
Terrible.
Yeah, like,
I mean, that's terrible.
Like, yeah,
that is so garbage.
Like, no matter how bad your offensive line is, that's just awful.
There was some horrible play calls too. At one point, the Bengals had the ball. It was in Jags territory. I don't even remember when it was, but they run this weird jet sweep to Alex Erickson and lost 12 yards on the play. And all of a sudden, you're out of field goal range, and they ended up punting. And it's like, dude, what is even happening? Like, I feel like the coaching staff is just playing Madden on the sidelines. They're like, yeah, this play will work fine, whatever, run it, who cares? And then Andy, okay, the interceptions that Dalton threw. So there's an interception that they end up forcing the Jags to punt. Great. The Bengals get the ball back. There's an incomplete pass, and then there was a pass interference call. And then I think another incomplete pass, and then Dalton throws the pick 6, and that was the backbreaker. And it was like, dude, that was brutal. But it's not over yet. As bad as that was, the game wasn't out of reach.
But and this was why we ultimately said it was a winnable game, because it's like the Jaguars don't have the horses to, like, necessarily pull away one way or the other. So, like, even though they kept it close, you're like, all right. Even if they make a big play, like, the Bengals can still be in this, right, because the Jaguars just aren't going to do enough to, like, extend any type of lead.
So they were only down 2 scores at that point, and then they get the kickoff, and the very next play, Dalton throws another interception. I was like, I'm done. I cannot. I tried so, and, like, I was getting really mad because people in our section were like, "You redheaded F," and, like, and I'm like, hey.
You took a personal affront.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no, I'm gonna stick up for my redheaded friend here.
Oh, jeez.
It was like an assault on me. So I'm trying to defend Andy on behalf of all redheads everywhere.
Good God.
And he let me down, man. It was so bad. Here's how bad it was. My dad, who has been a Browns fan for his entire life, has seen the biggest disappointments. My dad lived through the fumble. He lived through the drive. He looks at me at one point and goes, "Son, you got a real crappy team here." And I was like, "Yeah, Dad, we do. This is really, really bad." He was like, "I've seen some terrible football. This fourth quarter was the worst football I've ever seen in my life."
Ugh.
I mean, at this point, so, and here's the thing. I don't think you put in Finley. It doesn't help.
No.
But Dalton's not your guy. Unless you think
Look.
Finley is your quarterback of the future.
But look, I mean, all off season at the end of last year, even before they hired Taylor and decided, all right, we're gonna stick with it. I said, if you're gonna bring in a new coach, like they should have just jettisoned him. Like they should have just, and the results are being what they are with no wins. You should have just said, all right, Andy, thanks for the memories. You're gone, and just punted on him because they could have gotten out of him without any obligation financially and no cap hit. And they could have just been losing all these games, and everybody would have just been like, we've
Rebuild.
got we've got this. Instead, they drug Andy through here for another year. There's like a 0% chance they're going to bring him back next year.
Right.
And so you just delayed the inevitable, and so like Andy hung around here for no good reason. Like the fans get more unjustifiably upset for no reason. Like it puts more pressure on Zach Taylor because again, if they had just a whatever quarterback, like whoever they brought in, it would have just been like, there was nothing here. But it's just this whole.
But who could
like,
you
effect.
have gotten for Andy in the offseason? That's the thing. Like,
no,
you wouldn't have gotten.
you weren't
It would
worried
have been
about getting
Finley.
You weren't worried about getting anybody. It was just the completely cutting.
So you're
bait
saying
with.
just get rid of Andy and then run with Finley.
Yeah, if you were gonna bring in a new coach and new, all right, well, this is gonna be a rebuilding year anyway. Then why not have whatever guy he drafted and not, and I mean at the time, there was the suggestion that they would have gone with Haskins or whoever. But even if they ultimately decided that,
Sorry.
But even if they would have decided,
I just had a terrible
in
vision.
this year's draft, if they still had Andy, and they decided still, like if they had gotten rid of him, and they decided no, we don't want anybody, and they drafted whatever late. You've got a guy that you're like, well, it's just a guy, so it's kind of whatever this year. It's a roll of the dice. But instead, there's just enough of the expectations of, well, we've got pieces that were there when we were successful, so, I mean, there should still be, and then Seattle, we've talked about it, it got everybody's hopes up unnecessarily.
That's what did it, was that week one game.
Right, and so it's like, it's all of these things, but again, if you didn't have Andy, it wouldn't have been amplified. Because,
Right.
again, you would have still been able to, as a fan, compartmentalize it and say, yeah, they played well, but it was still a rookie QB. So, I mean, what can we realistically expect? We don't know. That was just one game sampling. But instead, you're like, oh, wait, it's Andy Dalton. So he's got this history. Like, maybe there's something here that we didn't know. And so it's screwed up. It's like what the Reds did with their rebuild, where they were like, hey, we're doing a rebuild, but we're like half in, but half out on this rebuild. And we're going to get rid of some guys, but we're going to bring in some guys. And, hey, we're just going to be middling. Yeah, and so like fans kind of like don't know what to do, but what they ultimately do is have more hope than necessary, and it screws up the entire thing.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about any hope from Bengals fans for the rest of the year. I feel like Bengals fans have checked out.
I was gonna say they're out.
That stadium was barely a third full. Here's how bad it was. They announced an attendance of 42,000 at that game, and I heard laughter. Like there was laughter in the stadium when they were like, today's attendance, 42,300, and everyone was like,
So I was just keeping an eye on the game at home, but then it scrolled across my Twitter feed like when the official announcement came out, and I said to myself out loud, no way.
Yeah.
There's zero chance that there's 42,000 people there. I would be shocked if they even sold 42,000 tickets.
Well, they did. I mean, that's what it's all based on is 42,000 tickets sold. But here's how bad it was. I had 4 tickets to the Miller Lite party deck.
And you couldn't give them away.
Yes. That ticket comes with free beer and free food.
You did
As a matter
offer
of
to
fact,
Joe and I, and we both had to turn you down.
you said no because of dad duties.
Right.
Joe said no because Bengals. That was his exact answer.
It's just like Bengals bad team. And the funniest part about that was I thought, oh, well, he's doing it because of the Browns. And then I realized, oh, my God, the Browns are on a bye.
They're on a bye,
He's
exactly.
not even turning it down because he wants to watch the Browns. And they're at the same time, he's legit just turning it down because he doesn't want to leave the house for the Bengals. Like, oh, my God.
When I posted it in the Craft Brewed Sports group on Facebook, PJ jumped in and said, what's it come with $40 spending money? I was like, well, it comes with free food and beer. So yeah, about. And he was like,
I still can't believe you didn't
still
get
hard
a ticket.
pass.
Because to be perfectly honest with you, if I wasn't on daddy duty and, because I legit had a reason Niners were playing at 1:00, which doesn't often happen.
Right.
So they were playing at the same time, and as ugly as that game was, you know, I
Yeah,
still would have been watching it.
You could have missed all 3 of them field goals and been okay.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I really wanted to go, and not because Bengals necessarily, but it was like, to hang out with you, hang out with Papa B, you know, just being at the NFL game, you know, and it was free, but the fact that you couldn't even give
Nobody
it away.
did. I ended up, I was invited to a buddy's tailgate from an old message board I used to be on. And when we got there, it was just him and his wife. And I was like, hey, where are your seats at? And he was like, we're in section 3, whatever. I was like, here, take these. There's free food and beer with it. Even if you don't have to, don't feel like you have to come sit with us, but just come down and drink and eat for free and then go back to your seats or whatever. He ended up hanging out with us, Big Merg. It was a good time. We had a good laugh. I also ran into Alex Schubert, comedian from Cincinnati. He sat behind us. He hosts FU We Like the Bengals, which is a super funny podcast where they just roast whoever the Bengals are playing. So be sure to check them out. So Schubert sat behind us and hung out. It ended up being a really good time, but man, like just awful football to watch. It was so painful to watch that game. But whatever. Definitely not 42,000 people there. My dad got super drunk. Here's my favorite part of the whole game. There's nobody in the stadium. Maybe a third full. The game ends, and my dad goes, "Phew, we better let this crowd clear out. Let's head to the bar."
That's such a dad thing to say, but so on
like,
point.
Yeah, Pops, let's go grab a beer.
And that's why I was upset I missed it, because all of the Papa B hijinks, like,
he was a trip. If you ever get a chance in the future to catch a game with my dad, do it, because you are missing out. He is hilarious. I want to talk about the Shannon Sharpe tweet that came out this week. Shannon Sharpe said after the loss that Bengals fans. He was basically insinuating the Bengals fans got what they deserve by hoping that Marvin Lewis got fired. And then he, pointing out they went from like an 8-8 team to 0-7, and maybe don't wish so hard for Marvin Lewis to leave. Marvin Lewis should still be the coach type feelings on that one. When I saw that tweet, I'm like, wait a second, pump the brakes here for a second. Are you telling me we should just accept mediocrity? It's not necessarily saying that that Zach Taylor was the home run hire. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, Zach Taylor was put in a really crappy situation. 3 offensive linemen leaving the team in the offseason, 2 retiring, 1 left. Like
the number 1 draft pick getting hurt for the season.
Exactly right. Your line is totally decimated, and you're riding on Andy Dalton. So let's not act like Marvin would have had any better of a season this year. I think that's the crazy thing, that people think that Marvin would have gotten some wins this year. Do you think Marvin would have gotten a win out of this team?
No, I mean, Taylor was put in such an awful position because, I mean, on top of that, you're like, all right, the line was decimated, and then you lose arguably your best player before the season even starts to a foot injury for half the season.
Right
away.
Yeah, AJ Green's out. Yeah. Let's not act like AJ Green was gonna change anything.
But I mean, but still, on paper, when you're looking at it, he's still the best player.
Right.
If you go to the Madden rankings and you're just like, hey, team rankings, like, he is the highest rated guy on that team, regardless of anything. So I mean, when you lose all of your offensive linemen, both first draft picks and otherwise, and then you lose your best player, even if he's a wide receiver that depends on somebody else getting the ball, like, you're already behind this gigantic 8 ball. And that's not if you're a first-year head coach.
I really had to go. I wanted to go back and
I already knew that he was their best rated player. Like, I knew you were Googling Madden, and like, yeah.
He is not. AJ Green is number 2.
No. But that's probably been
number 1 offensive player.
No. I was gonna say, but has that been since the season started, or has that been since the ratings have been adjusted as they go on?
Oh, it hasn't been since. This is Cincy Jungle from July. This is the initial ratings.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I don't know if it would have changed that much.
Is Geno Atkins the number 1?
Geno Atkins is number 1.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Which, I mean, Geno had a pretty decent game against the Jaguars. He made his presence felt. But he is the number 1, at least as and
according to Madden.
Yeah, and then Eifert was number 3.
That's crazy. A guy who hasn't even played a full season in his entire career with the Bengals is your number 3 rated guy. Dear God, man.
Tied with Eifert is running back Joe Mixon. Phew. Hopefully those ratings were adjusted. Anyways, so I don't think Marvin. I think if Marvin was here, he's 0-7 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I think that, like, just all of the things that have happened and just the tornado of crap that is, like, everything that's gone on with the team this season, people want to blame Mike Brown, but it's just like, it's just a whole mess of things that all add up to this 0-7. Like, you don't get to be 0-7 by, like, one single thing. It's just all of these factors have combined to make them 0-7, because I still think that this team just in general isn't bad enough to be 0-7, but everything has gone absolutely wrong to make sure that they are 0-7.
Maybe it's the jaded fan in me, but I'm starting to believe that they are just that bad. That it's just they're just not good.
As the old saying goes, you are what your record says you are, especially after this many games. I mean, it's a very good sample size. The season's halfway over, and here they are. But I still firmly believe that they won't go winless, and that's what I'm sticking to. Like, that's all I got.
So let's look ahead to this week. We got the Rams coming up in London, a rare 1:00 London game. Very strange. 1:00 our time. Joe, don't shake your head. It's a 1:00. All right, not 1:00 London time. Fine, whatever. It's a 1:00 game
in the States.
Right.
First time ever.
Right. I only talk Eastern Standard Time. Screw any other time zone. And screw the metric system, for that matter, too.
Sure.
Not even okay. Just throwing that out there.
We're driving on the left side of the car this week. For all you Londoners.
We were talking about it before the show. How terrible is that Zach Taylor's like, oh, man, we get to play. We're the away team at L.A.? I get to go back home? Yeah, no, Zach. You got to go to London to play your old team. Oh.
I don't know. You said that. It's a good chuckle, but I also hope that he realized that before this week. Like, he wasn't just like, oh, my God, I thought I was going back to L.A. this week, and it turns out we're going to London. Everybody switch plans, reverse. I've miscalculated everything. Throw out the game plan. We actually have to travel 5 hours across the ocean.
Now I kind of hope that's actually what happened. I really hope that that's exactly what happened. Do you think we end up 0-8 after this week?
Yeah. I mean, this Rams team,
it doesn't look good.
Who's not that good, is still very easily good enough to beat them.
That Rams offensive line is pretty much garbage. I think the Rams offensive line and the Bengals offensive line are statistically the two worst offensive lines,
just in
except
general,
for Miami.
Like, I mean, this Rams team, since they lost the Super Bowl, they've lost all sorts of guys because of the salary cap and injury and whatever, for whatever various reasons. But even all that, they're still good enough to beat this Bengals team because, like, Goff is not good.
No.
But they'll find a way.
Here's the other thing. I was really excited because we missed Jalen Ramsey because it was like, the Jaguars traded away Ramsey. Oh, no, we got him next week. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
So Ramsey, I think, is just going to eat Dalton alive. I mean, he's going to have Andy running for his life.
No, I mean, why would he have Andy running for his life?
Because I do a cornerback blitz every time because who's going to pick him up?
But that's not even his thing. His thing is just to blanket whoever. So it's like Tyler Boyd, good luck having anything going on. Like, he'll just shadow Boyd. And so,
that's true. Yeah. Because John Ross has disappeared from this team.
Well, John Ross is on IR. So, of course, he's disappeared from this team. The look that Joe gave you. It was the squirrel from the Weezer video. His neck jerked so quickly. It's like, dude. Yeah, he's on IR, so he's definitely not going to play a factor in this game.
Well, there you go. John Ross, pick it up, man. Get back in the game. What are you doing here? Wow. Do you think Gurley is going to run, like, shot on this defense?
Because I actually think that Gurley is...
Did you like that pivot?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was solid. But you like how I just went with it because I'm like, I'm not going to highlight anymore how awful that was. But no, I think Gurley, he's done as being an effective running back.
You think so?
Yeah, and here's how I know. At the
That's
end
what I always feel like, and then the running back just
no, but I mean,
lights
here's
up the
how I
Bengals
know
defense.
though, because for this specific situation is last year. You could say, well, he got injured because, I mean, he was gangbusters all the way through like 14 weeks of the season. And then all of a sudden he fell off. And then in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, it was like, wait a minute, who is this guy? Obviously, there's something wrong. And then it was, well, if he gets the offseason, he'll be healthy and he'll come back and he'll be the normal self. He's been the exact same guy that they got from like 14 on. So I think that he's effectively like done. They're just going to have to limit what he does, and they're only going to get he's never going to be the guy that we saw for the first 14 weeks of last season. Like, this is what he is. So like last week, even though he remained healthy, he didn't have a great week. Like, he might sneak in a couple of good weeks, but I don't think that you're going to look at the stat sheet and be like, oh my God, Gurley had 100 and, 25 yards on a few carries, like, because he just went off. Like, I think he's just gonna struggle, and he's not gonna be the reason that they win. He won't affect them, as far as a loss, because they won't lose. But I think Gurley's days as being like a top tier back are over. So I mean that's not. I don't want to say he's the least of the Bengals' concern, but he's just not somebody that you're like. He's no longer that guy that you have to game plan for.
I still feel like with the Bengals defense, they have to be ready for that. They have to be ready for.
Well, I'm not saying that you don't prepare for it. I'm just saying that I wouldn't expect him anymore to be that guy. Like, I'd be more worried about Cooper Kupp than I would be of Todd
I'm just
Gurley.
worried about Jared Goff looking like a Pro Bowl style quarterback after this.
Well, that's
week.
what I'm saying. Like, I mean, that's where it ends up being. Like you don't worry about Gurley. You worry about, they're gonna make Goff, who's not good, look good.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So we're going 0-8 then. We're gonna be 0-8 after this week. Maybe the travel to London screws up LA. That's a longer trip for
they
them.
forget where they are.
No, it's just a longer trip, more jet lag to deal with, right?
No.
Can we try something?
Aaron Donald, still the best defensive player in the NFL.
Maybe Aaron Donald gets sick. He eats some bad fish and chips.
And maybe he doesn't make it through customs.
Oh. Can we play some drugs on Aaron Donald? Can we just make sure he doesn't make it through?
Even then.
Yeah.
Even then. Ramsey be like, second game with the team, I got this.
Well, that's terrible. I was kind of hoping there'd be some Zach Taylor. I got to get back.
Speaking
of
of Zach
team.
Taylor, let's get a week 8 Zach Taylor update.
all right,
What did you do with
so
the soccer team and your kid this week?
They were not there. They didn't show up.
Boo.
Not even just like it. I was expecting maybe Zach's wife, and I was going to try to hobnob with her and be like, "Oh, Mrs. Taylor, hey, how's it going? Can we?"
Whoa, does that look? No, you were trying to do that?
I mean, not like anything. It was going to be like, I was going to be like, look at our kids hanging out together. That's cool. We should hang out sometime.
It's a good playoff.
Play date.
Yeah. We should hang out sometime with the kids.
I don't care about Zach Taylor's wife. Like, this is.
I have no idea what Zach Taylor's wife looks like.
This is the one instance where my wife would be more worried about me trying to go after the husband in the relationship, because I'd be like, I want to hang out with Zach Taylor. I want to be friends with him.
And for the sake of the show, I hope that's the case.
Yeah, but they weren't there. Emma wasn't even playing. I don't know what was going on, which is crazy because it was a home game. And then I knew they were like out.
You're waiting
this
around the
week.
whole time. Where's Zach?
So like I knew they were going to be here this week, and I found out. I didn't even know this Friday. This is the
mom
last.
Scared him off.
No,
she,
this is. She
questions?
might have.
Yeah.
He was probably like, they are on to me.
I was gonna say,
I'm
they
never
figured
going
me
back.
out.
Some redheaded guy was just like, he knew right away, and I had to get the hell out of there. No, this is the last week. This week is the last week of the game. So with them being in London, they're not going to be there. So I've missed the window has closed, and I can no longer be friends with Zach Taylor. I know. I was very disappointed. I really was hoping this season went a little bit longer, but then I was like, oh wait, that's right. They're 3 and 4 years old.
I was just gonna say. And I almost questioned you, like, what? The season's already over, and then I realized, no, wait, that seems about right. Like they only play like
it's
6
dark
weeks.
by the time the games are ending now,
Yeah,
anyway. So the kids
done.
are so there you go. There's your Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor Chronicles.
It's not going to happen, unfortunately.
I feel like you should still parlay that 1 week
I may.
conversation and a show get.
I'm going to try. I mean, I'll shoot my
your
shot.
baby. There it is.
Let's talk some UC football here. Let's talk a football team that's actually winning this year. As a Xavier fan, it always hurts me to hear that.
I hate it every time.
Yeah. I mean, we got to do it, but as a Xavier guy, just skin crawling as it happens. UC up to number 18 in the AP poll. Looking ahead. Okay, so I did some searching on this. The group of 5 team that is ahead of UC in the rankings currently is SMU. They're ranked number 16 right now. Now, this is all conjecture because it's AP poll, so we have to wait until Tuesday.
Doing, really well, just in the conference in general. Like, aren't they the consensus best team in?
Right, but they're also in the West. They're AAC West.
Right, so they're the opposite.
Right, so UC will not play them until the championship game. Now, again, this is all conjecture until the official college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday, because that's the definitive rankings. This is based on the AP, but UC and SMU appear to be the top 2 teams in the group of 5, which means the AAC champion is going to move on to a New Year's Six Bowl, most likely, regardless of who that is, whether that's SMU or UC. So we will likely, as long as UC wins out, they are going to be playing SMU in the American Conference Championship game, winner going to a New Year's Six Bowl.
That's pretty huge.
That's amazing, right?
All right.
So we have the opportunity for UC making a big-time bowl for the first time since Brian Kelly was coaching at UC. Notre Dame has 1 loss on the year to Georgia. Notre Dame is likely out of the playoff conversation. Does the committee put this together where it's Notre Dame versus UC in a New Year's Six Bowl?
Absolutely do. Because this is what the committee lives for.
Exactly. They love the storylines.
Especially in games like this where it's like, oh, well, there's nothing on the line and they're not like worried about like perceptions of anything. They will totally make sure that this matchup happens.
I think if both qualify, and Notre Dame still has some wins that
I'm here for it. Like, I want to see that.
I love it, especially that it's a few months after Brian Kelly and the 2019 were inducted into the UC Hall of Fame, and then he is playing UC in their first New Year's Six game since he was the coach and left before. Oh my God.
Give it to me.
This is the best. I want this. Inject it right into my veins because I want this 100% to happen.
In the committee's gonna make it.
There you go. Joe just pulled it up. ESPN currently, there's a prediction that SMU versus Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl. So they're saying the American League winner against Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl is the likely pick for that New Year's Six Bowl. So if UC can get that win, there's a good chance it's UC versus Notre Dame, and this city is going to lose its mind. I can't wait for UC fans to be so fired up to take on Notre Dame in a New Year's Six Bowl. I'm here.
No, I think it would be cool. I know, the people who listen to the show don't know, but you and I have gone back and forth over the bowl games. Like, that's pretty much the genesis of why this podcast is even started.
100%.
And I am not here for the, exhibition bowls, but I am here for a good storyline, and I absolutely would be here for the UC versus Brian Kelly storyline matchup. Like, that to me is interesting. That's what makes a bowl game where there's nothing at stake per se.
Right.
Like, it's just for
it's
bragging
all
rights.
pride.
But I mean, when you're talking about, oh hey, we've got this perfect storyline of this former coach, and now this team who has wallowed in craptitude until now,
and not just the former coach. The former coach that led them to glory before.
Right.
I mean, and left before their last big bowl game.
No, I'm all the way here for this.
And if it happens and UC wins, they'll be going into the Hall of Fame the next year. So
the next year or the next minute? They'll hold the game. After the game, they're like, Hall of Fame.
Every single person gets a statue.
Maybe even 2.
Luke Fickell is gone. He is out. He will take whatever job because they're going to offer him all the money if he beats Notre Dame in that bowl game.
Notre Dame, here he comes.
God, how funny would that be if Brian Kelly fired him and they're like, hey, Luke, you want a job here? And he's like, yeah, sure. And they just transfer. Oh, God.
Looking at UC's schedule coming up, ECU, Connecticut, USF, those are all very winnable games. We talked about it before. The 2 games at the end of the year are the games they need to pay attention to. Those are the ones that you need to make sure you win. You got Temple at home, which is, and Temple just faltered recently. So I think that game.
They definitely look beatable.
Early in the year, it looked like that was a team that was going to be a big matchup, and they've really struggled. It was their loss to SMU where they got blown out 45-21. That's what it was that I was like.
So, I mean, basically what we're looking at is SMU is like the game that you're preparing for. Like, assuming you take care of business, like
you got
SMU
but that's the thing. You got to make sure that you are
taking care of business.
Right,
before.
you got to win to get there. But it's crazy that the American Conference is going to come down to be the one that is playing in a New Year's Six Bowl again, because recently it's been UCF that has been the hot team, and they're the American team that represents in the New Year's Six Bowls, and now it's either going to be UC or SMU. It looks like, and I'm pumped. I'm super pumped for that. Oh, I can't wait. I really want that UC.
It's gonna be. I was gonna say, like, that UC Notre Dame matchup. I'm all the way here for.
As a Notre Dame fan,
it'll be the only bowl game that isn't a playoff game that I care to
worth
watch.
Watching.
Like that I have any stake in the outcome. So please let it.
As
happen.
a Notre Dame fan, I was really bummed that they're likely out of the playoff conversation. And then when I was really researching and saw that UC was right in there, I was like, oh my God, this has to happen.
Right.
This needs to happen. That these 2 teams meet up in a New Year's Six Bowl. I want it to go down, but here's where I feel a little distrustful of this whole thing. The college football playoff rankings are coming out on Tuesday, and there's always some weird shakeup in the rankings compared to what the AP and the coaches poll have.
This is the first.
This will be the first one.
rankings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, from the UC perspective, just win out. If you win out, you're likely going to be. I don't foresee any other group of 5 teams jumping you. I mean, Boise State is close-ish, I guess, but I feel like it's going to come down to that American League. American Conference champion is going to be the one. But I don't think there's any group of 5 teams that are any closer, at least in the AP rankings. So Boise State is the only one that likely could jump. Probably not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get it done. Let's please win out. Oh, Joe just pointed out Appalachian State is hanging out back there.
Yeah, they have silently been hanging about this year.
That's a team that I forgot existed. Like in my mind, they're still an FCS team because I still think of them beating Michigan and being the big upset. So I
never forget that they exist. It's just that they always somehow find a way to lose something towards the middle. Like by this time, they've already lost something.
There's their loss. It's November 9th. They got South Carolina, so chalk that up as an L.
But South Carolina,
yes,
they're going up against Tennessee this week, and they were only favored by a few points.
Oh, you mean the South Carolina team that just beat Georgia? That South Carolina team?
They didn't beat Georgia. Oh wait, they did. Oh, you're talking about the week before. I thought you were talking about this week with the spread. No.
Yes.
Yeah,
no, South Carolina. Yeah. The South Carolina will definitely beat Appalachian State. I'll put it down right now. I'll throw it at the dartboard if they don't.
Well, then they just the kiss of death has just been anointed to South Carolina. If you're a Cox fan, you are mad.
No, come on. There's no way. There's no way. Look at the ESPN prediction right there. 70-some% are picking. It's already like a 70%.
71%, because that's never been wrong.
I mean,
what's the point spread?
I think.
They don't have one because
it's way
3
too
weeks.
early for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of too early,
come on. Are you gonna seriously sit here and tell me you got Appalachian State beating South Carolina?
I don't know. Ask me again in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Should we talk about Xavier?
Yeah, let's talk about some XU, baby. We don't have a cool sound cue for XU yet, but okay, cool.
Chink, ching, 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 ching. That's some swords. Ching, ching.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. 19 in the preseason ESPN poll. Yeah. UC.
That's pretty dope.
Well, and again, it's flip flop because last year at this time, UC came out ranked, in the bottom of that top 25, and Xavier was just outside of. I didn't get to see where UC ended up, like if they received any votes, like where they would be ranked if they expanded the top 25, but they are not in the top 25. So again, just a role reversal.
Yeah.
And, there's obviously some sort of expectations for this Xavier team to be a lot better, at least to start the year, than last year's team. So
UC was they received 8 votes.
Okay, so they're, probably right around 30s.
30-ish.
Yeah.
30-ish.
So not terribly far away, but that's, again, same way that Xavier was last year, where Xavier came in and they were around the 30s to start the year and then fell
I
way
think
behind
what this comes down to is you have Xavier, who is now on a second-year coach. They've settled in a little bit. They've had some time, whereas UC is starting fresh with the new regime.
The roles have literally just reversed.
It's basically what's going to be interesting is where the state of college basketball in the city is in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Like that's where it's going to be really interesting. And I think you do have the potential where Xavier and UC are going to be those like top 15 type teams, both of them competing for like, that type of ranking. But I do love seeing Xavier ranked ahead of UC to start the season.
For sure, but I will also say that it's kind of like the Skywalker trailer. I'm very cautiously optimistic about this season. Like I'm hoping for good things, but I don't want to get like too far ahead of myself because the players that Xavier got in on paper should be really good, but we've kind of seen this before with Xavier where they've had some name guys for their program.
Yeah.
Not name guys, across the board, but just name guys for their program where people look at them and say, oh, well, this is why they succeed. And then for whatever reason, they just don't pan out. And they're expecting a lot of younger guys. So
Xavier,
the established veteran guys are there, and that's like the core of what they, but like this ranking is also based a lot on the fact that they've got a few guys that are coming in that they're like, oh yeah, these guys are gangbusters. And that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, Kiki is definitely one that like people are pointing to as like this dude is going to come in and make an impact right away. He is going to be a guy on this team. I feel like here's the problem. Xavier basketball, since we've been there, has always been if they are expected to do well,
they haven't.
They falter. Well, I mean, they may make the tournament and then get bounced the first weekend. It's those teams that you're like, I don't know about this team that then ends up making this crazy deep run that it's like, where the hell did this even come from? Like,
well, with the exception of last year, because they were kind of in that position last year, and it just everything.
Well, but last year you had the first year coach asterisk that you can fall back on of. Yeah, Travis Steele has been there forever, but he's also never been the guy on the sidelines.
Right.
So you can always fall back to, it's a first-year head coach. But I feel, and I even said it on a couple of the Craft Brew Sports shows last year where I said, this is the type of Xavier team that makes a deep run in the tournament that you don't expect. Like, you have guys that you're like, who is that? And then next thing you know, Hanky McSpanky is a dude that everybody knows from the tournament because he makes a crazy run and everybody makes a big deal out of his Twitter handle, but they didn't do it. They fell short of that. But that's the type of team that I feel like always goes deep for Xavier, whereas a team like this, where they start off preseason ranked, there's some decent expectations because you have some leadership coming back, you have some good freshmen coming in. This is the type of team that they may make the tournament, but then falter. And then it's like, great season, guys. Thanks.
Well, I'm hoping that's not the case because, again, it's just there's expectations there. And, after last year being kind of, a step back, but an expected step back with the head coach, it'll be nice if this year they get back to where they kind of were. And I don't think anybody's expecting any type of deep run. There isn't any Final Four expectations off this team, but definitely like they're in that range where it's like a Sweet 16 isn't completely out of the question. If you're coming into the season ranked 19, like that's a fair assumption that you'd make it to the second weekend. And Xavier has a history of outperforming expectations with lesser teams. So this team being 19th ranked to come in, like a Sweet 16 run should be well within reason.
Looking at some of these other rankings, though, man, Villanova just stays near the top of the Big East.
Yeah.
They're ranked number 10 preseason. And then the surprise to me is Seton Hall at number 12. I would not have expected Seton Hall to be that high ranked in the preseason. So once again, you have a Big East conference that is looking to be pretty well stacked out throughout the year. And it could be a conference that, this is, and what I've noticed with Xavier since they transitioned to the Big East is that out-of-conference schedule ends up getting weaker and weaker. Like, they used to play some baller out-of-conference games because you're in the A-10. You had to have a stacked out-of-conference schedule in order to beef up the resume.
Right.
But I feel like they're starting to lessen up that out-of-conference schedule and relying on the Big East to bolster the schedule. But when you have a team like Villanova that you can't beat, it's like, dude, can you get somebody in out of conference that we can? Because I hate having a good loss and not a good win on the resume come March. But man, I just don't know. With Villanova and Seton Hall, nobody else in the Big East ranked in the preseason top 25. I mean, I think the conference will end up being, a decent conference, but the Big East has kind of had a downturn recently as a whole.
I mean, it's just been Villanova and whoever else drags their sorry carcass into second. Like that's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Basically, since the Big East has been reestablished, it's been Villanova and one other team.
And the Big East.
Yeah, and everybody else is battling out for second.
It's the worst punk band ever. Villanova and the Big East. All right, let's do our way too early crosstown shootout predictions. Xavier versus UC coming up December 7th. It's actually not that far. Is it crazy that that's not that far away?
Same day as my son's birthday party.
Oh, man. Are you going to have that on the TV?
Because
otherwise I'm not going to be
The party is from 2 to 4. The game starts at 5.
Well
I know
played.
it's up.
Well
but
played.
If not, it's going to be a Xavier party-a-thon right on in. So the birthday party is going to turn right into the crosstown shootout
I love
party.
that you thought this through. Well done,
I
my
had
friend.
already thought about it. And
God, you're the man.
when my wife asked, hey, what time do we want the party to? I was like, 2 to 4. And she's like, okay. And she didn't even ask why. But in my mind, I was like, because the game starts at 5. And so anybody who wants to come, who was like, I'm not going to come because of the Xavier game, they're like, oh, well, there's still that hour so I can make it. But anybody else, and I'm like, I'm straight up telling people, come to the kids' party. It is going to just transform right on into a Xavier party. So
that's like right in the heart of nap time, but I don't even care. I'm probably just going to keep my kids up and bring them.
I was just going to say, they're more than welcome. There'll be other kids who are forced to stay awake because it's the crosstown shootout. But I think that Xavier gets back to winning this one. UC lost enough guys off this last year's team.
It's at Cintas this year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel good about that one.
Yeah, no, I just
feel really good about that one.
They're ranked higher. They on paper they should win, and then it's at Cintas. So yeah, I feel like Xavier's got this.
Xavier
I don't
does
think
not
they're
have
gonna go like a blowout victory, but
there's not any really good games that will prepare them for that UC game. I guess Missouri is probably
potentially
the best.
well, potentially because they play in that tournament, so it's like you don't know who they're gonna play.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of real tests.
Right. That's on. Yeah. So I feel like that'll be the first big game for Xavier.
But that's the problem with this whole UC Xavier game in December. They really, and I've been saying this, I've been beating this drum forever.
Move that back.
Move it back to February.
Whatever happened to like
key.
rivalry week? That was the best. I mean, I know it's right in the middle of the conference schedule, but it was always in the middle of the conference schedule.
Yeah.
Why is it a problem now?
Well, it was ever since they moved the whole, we had the fight and we've got to move it earlier. So
But they
there's
did
this
that
bad
before that.
blood.
They moved it earlier in the season before the fight, before the crosstown brawl.
I don't know. All I know is that it needs to go back to February.
It definitely needs to go back to February.
Like December, that early in the season, just like it feels like your college season doesn't get underway until like mid-December. And that game happens just like a week before everything gets even underway. So you're like, oh my God, we've got like one of the biggest games of the season on the calendar before everything really gets amped up. And no matter what the outcome of that game, it's kind of like whatever. Whereas when it was in February, when the season is, in the thick of things,
right.
It's like, not only does it mean something because of like momentum and where you're at season-wise, It's got the extra boost because of the rivalry. Like, it just felt so much bigger. It's just like, oh yeah, this is big, but you can kind of recover. It's like playing it early. It's like the early season.
It has no impact.
Yeah, it's the early season college football matchup where it's like, yeah, week 1 they might play somebody, but it doesn't knock them out of playoff contention because it's so early and nobody cares. Everybody's forgotten by the time selection show comes around. So
Can we? I know it's
move
not,
it to February.
I know it's not Cincinnati, but can we just laugh real quick that Dayton is? They're not even talked about anymore.
Oh, I mean, you don't even have to say anything. As soon as you said Dayton, I was laughing because it's Dayton.
I know Xavier fans hate UC for whatever. I've never been a Xavier fan that really hated UC.
Me neither.
I've always been like,
I've always hated Dayton more.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I didn't grow up here, but I
It
feel
is.
like
It's absolutely because we didn't grow
Yeah.
up here, so we don't have that like.
Dayton has been my rival.
Yep,
It's not UC.
Absolutely.
UC is like, I want to win this game just because why not?
It's the rivalry
But
on
the
paper.
Dayton game was the one that I was like,
Yep.
I hope we never lose to this team.
Same Z's.
Fantastic. This has been a really fun show, man. We covered a lot in this one.
We hit all the points we needed to.
All right, so let's recap real quick. 0-8. UC is going to take on Notre Dame. Xavier dominates. There we go. There's your show in a nutshell.
There's your Cincy style, baby.
It has been another fantastic week with all of you.
Absolute pleasure.
Yes, thank you
Thank
all
you,
for
Joe.
tuning in. Yes, Joe, thank you for keeping us on track. Thank you for making fun of me for my gaffes. And I'm glad I was able to make fun of Scott for his gaff, so at least everybody made a gaff on this show. It's fine.
There's no reason to bring up old stuff.
If you guys want to follow along in between the shows, be sure to tweet at us at Craft Bee Sports. You can follow Scott at ScottyK_Jr. Follow me at Mike Burlow and follow Joe at JoeGoalie4. If you've got any sweet, hot Cincinnati takes you want to throw down, hit us up on our drunk line, 440-37-DRUNK. Join the Craft Breed Sports Facebook group. We got all kinds of sports talk going on in there, so be sure to search that out and join in. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to rate, subscribe, and review. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers, everybody.
Peace. We out.